our webinar on how to stop yelling at your children. I'm sure that is something that all of us have done from time to time. And today we're going to have a lovely conversation with Miss Nalina Ramalakshmi. I have with me this illustrious figure who is not only the MD of Parent Circle, but she is also a very, very astute and deep thinker. So let's get into a conversation with her and figure out how we can stop yelling at our kids. My name is Meghna, and I'm a clinical psychologist and parenting educator with Parent Circle. So let's begin. How are you doing, Nalina?
Great, Meghna, and under the circumstances of the lockdown, doing good. And it's wonderful to be in a conversation with you today. Looking forward to it.
Much. Yes, likewise. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the basics, right? Why is yelling at kids bad? I mean, this is about 10 years back or when we were growing up, right? That time spanking was considered to be bad, right? A parent today might say, hey, I'm not hitting my child. So, why should I not yell when it gets things done? My child only listens to me when I yell at him. So why is yelling bad? So how would we respond to that parent?
I know it's only natural when your child does something, and you want him to do something else. We all get angry, but how do we manage that anger? We just want at that point to do something to either hit our kid or yell at them, right? And then, as you said, many parents think that better than hitting is yelling. But if you really look at it, hitting leaves a physical scar, but yelling in some ways a verbal abuse, and it can leave an emotional scar on your child, right? And at that moment, you may feel that it's working. Yeah, my child's listening to me. Yes, that's a short-term fix. But is your child learning anything in that moment when you yell at them? So fear has taken over, right? So the brain is reacting out of fear rather than out of his own free motivation, of the child's free motivation to do something. So ultimately we are there to help our children learn about, how to behave. And so we need to make sure that every opportunity we get, we turn it into a moment where the child actually learns from us. And so it's really at that point, instead of yelling, what can we do to turn that into a moment where your child learns something and learns more to control and manage his own emotions in the process, right? So when he's angry or throws a tantrum or refuses to listen to you, obviously he's filled with emotions, and those emotions are overwhelming him, and that's why often the child is reacting in a certain way and acting in a certain way. And because they don't know to express clearly, they act it out. And how do we respond? We tend to sometimes react in our own anger and frustration. And so we yell. And then when we yell, the child gets frightened, obviously, right? There's a fright in the child. And then the child listens to you. And yes, you're happy in the moment, your child is listening, you're controlling the child. But in the long term, is that the right thing? Is that beneficial to the child? Has the child learned to manage his emotions? Has he learned why he's been told to do a particular thing, right? So many long-term impact and the emotional abuse the child takes that yelling actually has versus, hitting is bad. And, yes, we don't recommend hitting. But at the same time, yelling too doesn't serve the purpose. There are a lot more peaceful ways of handling this situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the point that you said about how it yields cooperative behavior only in the short run. I mean, I think nothing could be further from the truth. I think the parallel that I would like to draw with hitting is that just like in yelling, just like in hitting, it results in escalation because more and more yelling then is required to produce the desired behavior change, right? And so really bad modeling of emotion regulation for the child. The child learns that when you're angry, it's okay to yell, right? So yeah, I completely agree. And I would also like to add another thing that I think once over time, what yelling does is it leads to disconnection between you and your child. It sort of builds a wall between you and your child. And then when you, maybe you're a parent who ends up feeling guilty later after yelling, and then when you want to reach out, it becomes very difficult to establish that connection, right? So yeah, I mean, it might work in the short run, but in the long run, it's leading to many more adverse consequences than gaining that short-term victory. Yeah, fair enough.
So, so I
So
do. I agree with you, Meghana. I think you brought out some great points. You know how it disrupts the connection when you yell at your child, and that's where you really need to build the bond, that connection, and that trust. And yelling does disrupt that. So, great point that you brought out, Meghana.
So, Nalina, how can a parent actually stop herself from yelling when she's already in that triggered state of mind? You're already upset, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're going on saying something, and your child is not listening to you, and you finally lose it. Right, you enter that flight and fight mode. You're getting really triggered and upset, and you just start yelling. So if at that time a parent wants to stop herself, if at that time when she's already triggered they want to not proceed with yelling, they're still really angry, so what can the parent do?
I think you're right. We are all humans, right? And we do get triggered, right? But if you really look at neuroscience and the way the brain works, we talk about, this, as Dr. Dan Siegel has said, this wonderful hand model of the brain. If you think of the lower part of the brain as being the emotional brain, uh, and the upper part as the thinking brain, then when they're both connected and integrated, you're in a calm state of mind and you're able to respond and think clearly, right? And the upper part of the brain, which is also the executive brain, is controlling your emotions and helping you manage your emotions. But the moment you're triggered by whatever emotion, right? It flips, your brain flips, and then your thinking brain is no longer connected to your emotional brain. And when this happens, you tend to react. Your emotions have taken over, and you react without thinking clearly. And you say things and do things that you may regret later, right? And even if your child's trying to say something, you probably are not in a position to understand what the child is trying to say to you because you're not thinking. Your thinking brain is not functioning. And the same happens to the child as well, right? So, so a lot of times also have to remember that when do we yell at our child? If you step back and examine the moments when we do yell at our children more often, it's very dependent on how we are feeling at that moment and the moods we are in at that moment, right? So if I've had a good day and I walk into the room and I see the toys are all around, scattered around, and it's a real mess in the child's room, I probably walk in and, I'm okay. Oh, what happened today? Looks like you're having a great time, or, let me see if I can help you clean up the toy. You're calm and you're not yelling at the child. But say you've just had a rough day, you've just, you're supposed to meet a friend, your friend didn't turn up, or the help at home didn't turn up, you're just overwhelmed with too many things. And at that stage, it's like you walk into the room. Now there's one more thing you got to worry about, cleaning up your child's room. So you're already in an agitated state of mind. And when you walk in that state, that's when you tend to really yell at your child. How many times did I tell you to clean up your room? Why do you leave this mess? Don't you understand what I said? Put it away right now, or else I'm going to throw away all your toys. And then we begin to get into this rant. Some of it just doesn't make sense. You're probably never going to throw away all your child's toys. But at that moment, you feel that's what's going to work, the threat you offer your child, right? So I think first we need to examine why we yell and why we react in certain ways or respond in certain ways. And the first thing research always goes back to is it's about you and your emotional state of mind you are in, right? So if in your calm state of mind, you tend to think and respond. But if you're in an agitated state of mind where your emotions are running high, you tend to be more reactive, the way you handle the situation. So So given that, when you are in a situation when you feel like you need to yell at your child, the first step to do is to pause, right? And then at Parent Circle, we have come up with a very nice process that helps you remember the clean steps that you can go through, a step-by-step process to help you handle such situation. We call it the peace process. It's an acronym for, pause, empathize, await, communicate, and engage. So what do each of these mean? I'll take you through each of these steps, right? So let's go back to the example of you walking into a room and seeing toys scattered all over. So if you're in a bad mood, remember how you just start yelling at your child for no reason and threatening him, right? At that moment, even if your child's calm, what happens to your child's brain? The child begins to feel a sense of threat. So they get into the flight, fight, freeze response, and they get agitated. They start screaming, they start yelling, and a situation that could have calmly been worked out, becomes a very combative situation at that point. So given that, we know that the best time for both of you to work things out is when both your minds are calm. Like we say, when both your minds are integrated, the parent and the child's mind, right? So that's when you need to engage and communicate with each other. So now going back to the peace process, right? So as the first step is to make sure that to pause. The P stands for pause, right? The pause is for you to try to get your emotions under control at any situation. So again, if you take the situation, even if in your bad mood and you walk into the room, what do? You just step out again, right? Take a deep breath, go take a drink of water, and maybe run around the block a little bit, but just calm down, just get your emotions under control and say, okay, I got it, I'm going to walk in there calm and, let me think about how I need to handle it. So with that thoughtful approach, you walk into the room. So the first step again is you pause, get your emotions under control. The second is what we call empathize. What does empathize mean? It's about letting your child know that you understand what he's going through in that moment, the emotions he's feeling, right? And so you reflect back those emotions. So here, when you walk in, you say, you walk in and you tell your child, I see toys scattered all over. Looks like somebody's been having a great time today, huh? So when you say that, the child doesn't get agitated. He begins to feel calm. Okay, my mom's not going to yell at me about this. I don't need to worry. But, so they begin to continue to have the emotions under control. And the third situation is, okay, so we said pause, empathize. Then the third is await. What does await mean? Await means make sure that your child is in a calm state of mind, right? So if you walk in and you started screaming and your child got agitated, at that point telling him to clean up his room, he's just going to be crying and screaming and yelling at you and not listening to anything that you do. There's just going to be another tantrum down there, right? So, but if you make sure he is calm, then then you go on to the next step, right? The next step is you communicate with your child, right? So what does C mean? That is, so we did pause, empathize, await. Now we come to the C, that's communicate. What does communicate mean? Communicating means talking to the child, telling them what you've seen and how you are feeling about the situation at that moment, right? So if you walk in and say, I see the toys scattered all over your room. I think it's, what have we talked about earlier? Don't you think you need to clean up your room? We want to keep our rooms clean because of so and so. And ask the child, what made you keep all your toys away? If so many toys on the floor, and it looks like, why did you have to pull out so many toys today? Which one was your favorite that you played with? So you have these engaging conversations with your child. And then after that, the next step is engage, right? E for engage. So what in that step, what you do is, now that you've told your child what your thoughts are, what you're observing, what you're seeing, and listening to what your child has to say, their point of view, then you engage with your child to find a solution. Talk to your child and find out, what could he do the next time? Instead of having pulled out so many toys, what else could he have done so the room is not a mess? He'll have more space to play with, right? So and then you'll be surprised how your child will probably have her own solution to the problem. Even if they're little, they'll tell you, Mama, maybe, I couldn't reach that shelf up there, so I couldn't put that toy away, or, I don't know where to put this toy. So then you start engaging and you explain to them and you work out a solution. So this is a step-by-step process which helps you manage the situation in a much more peaceful way. We call it peaceful way. So again, if I had to reiterate, it's pause, control your emotions, empathize, let your child know you understand what they're feeling and the emotions they're going through. Next is await. Await is wait for your child to be in a calm state of mind. So he or she is receptive to what you're trying to tell them. Then you communicate about what you're seeing and what's happening. Just have a conversation around what's been going on. And finally, E for engage, right? Engage is when you engage together and come up with a solution to prevent such things from happening again. That helps you and your child come up with setting limits. You set limits and boundaries for your child. You set rules, and where you work together with your child to help him understand your expectations. So that is the engage part. So when you go through this peace process, whether it be in a time of conflict or any time, any interaction with your child, I think the opportunity for connection, where does the connection come in? When you empathize and you let your child know that you understand, you help, and you're helping them calm down. So that's when the connection happens. So this whole peace process helps you manage a situation much more effectively. It teaches your child emotional regulation because they see you being emotionally regulated. They learn how to handle their emotions. And so you turn any opportunity into a learning opportunity for the child.
That's beautiful, Nalina. Thanks so much for that long explanation, because that's so clear, right? The peace process makes it so clear what steps are we supposed to take when we find ourselves getting triggered. I particularly find the first two steps as a parent myself of two young kids a little challenging to do. But the more you practice, I think we're also humans, we need practice. So pause, right? When it comes to pause, I've often found myself saying to my kids out aloud, I'm so angry right now, or I'm so frustrated right now. I think I'm going to take a time out. Okay. And I just go to my room and I try to calm down for some time. Or sometimes when I feel that, I should not really leave the situation because they're also maybe getting upset, I say out loud, I'm so angry right now, or I'm so upset right now. I think I'm going to take a few deep breaths, and I'll go and stand in the middle of my drawing room, and in front of my kids, I just start taking in deep breaths. And more often than not, my kids actually join us. So we are a bunch of three taking deep breaths, standing in the middle of our drawing room, and it works, right? Because after some time, either we burst out laughing, or we have actually calmed down enough to be able to actually talk to each other, right? So that really helps. But I think, yes, pause is quite difficult, but I think it's also equally important for parents to understand that if you are triggered, you can't get your child to change their behavior. If you're yelling, that's not going to work. That's not really a long term strategy. But I think it's equally important for us to realize as parents how not to personalize things, right? Because kids will be kids. It's like, as you mentioned, right, they're not able to express themselves in words, so they act out, right? So I think remembering that, okay, she's not doing this to trouble me. I mean, I often find myself thinking sometimes when I'm very tired, very frustrated, oh my God, why are you doing this to me? But the fact is that that's not what they are doing to me. That's how they are, right? And if I can't deal with it, I need to learn how to deal with that. So yeah, sure. And another thing that I would like to add to the peace process is, in general, I think for parents, especially during this time, but in general as well, I think it's very important to make sure that your cup is full and that you're not running on empty and that you're not stressed yourself. And if you are, to do things for yourself that help you, right? I mean that fill your cup. I mean spending that me time, connecting with your own friends or family, or just pursuing whatever is it that you find interesting or that you're passionate about is so important in the long run, because it sort of keeps our mood regulated, keeps us regulated, and makes those outbursts less likely to happen in front of our kids. Okay, so I think let's shift to the last segment of this discussion, where I would like to ask you. So you described beautifully the peace process, right? But what if a parent has already lost their temper? What if the parent has already yelled, right? What can the parent do in that scenario?
You know, Meghna, I have to say, it's wonderful that what you do with your children, right? Demonstrating to them how you handle your own emotions. As human beings, it's only natural that we all feel certain emotions, and it's okay for your child to know you're a little upset or angry at that moment. But it's how you react at that moment that makes a difference. And it's wonderful that you actually demonstrate that to your children, and they also follow along. There's so much learning for the child happening at that moment, right? And yeah, and as you said, none of us are perfect, and there's no perfect parent, right? And definitely, how much ever you try, there will be times when you just lose it. You try everything, you try to pause, you try to do whatever's in your capability, right? And yet, I keep saying, I've never knew what anger was till I had my own children, right? I keep saying that phrase. So I know how they can trigger your anger and your other deeper emotions, children. So given that, it is natural at some time, however hard we try, we are going to yell at our child or say things we didn't want to say, mean to say, and then after a few minutes, when you're calmed down, you really regret what's happened at that moment. We're all humans, right? And it's only natural that however hard we try, to be calm around our children, we will lose it at some time. Like I said, I've never really keep saying that I never knew what temper felt like or anger felt like till I had my own children. So they really have the capacity to trigger our deeper emotions that we never really felt before, whether it be love on one hand or anger on the other hand. So, given that, whatever you do, there will be moments when you yell at your child and say things and do things that you never really wanted to do because your thinking brain is not functioning and you're so emotionally overcome, right? Uh, and then a few minutes later, when you're all calm, you really regret what happened. You begin to feel guilty. Oh my God, I shouldn't have done this to my child. I'm a bad parent. You go through all that. And honestly, there is really no need for, as a parent, to feel guilty about it. It's okay. It's only natural. And you're not a bad parent. You're doing your best, right? So what can you do? You've done it. It's happened. And what we say is that it's okay to go back and repair that relationship. So when this happens, there's a disconnect between you and your child, right? Because of this reactive moment that has happened. So when you talk to your child later, you can always go back and repair that relationship that was temporarily broken. So you go back and you can say sorry to your child, you can apologize, and that's okay. You don't have to feel I'm the parent. I should never apologize to my child. If I do apologize, I'm actually sending the wrong message to my child. That's not true at all. In fact, if you go back and tell your child, you know what? I was angry at that moment when I yelled at you and said these things, right? And I'm sorry. I felt this way because you did this. And I was upset about something else, and I walked in and I saw all this toys scattered around, and it made me lose my temper at that moment. So when you go and explain to your child and apologize for your behavior and say, you know what, next time this happens, I'll try not to get angry at you, or maybe if you behave this way, it will help me not get angry at you, right? So you have that conversation with your child. then your child is so forgiving. I mean, they love you no matter what, right? They look up to you, they love you, especially at this age. You are their God and everything. So they will come back to you, and and they will give you a big hug and a kiss, and everything is forgotten. But more importantly, also teaching your child an important lesson. Your child is also learning what happens, how to manage a situation of conflict when things don't happen right. That it's okay to go back and repair relationships. So there's so much a child can learn from this small, apology that you serve your child. So it's okay if you lose it occasionally. What we tell you is try to minimize the situations, but occasionally it will happen. We're all humans. But when it does happen, the best thing you can do is go back and apologize to your child, say sorry that this happened, and repair the relationship and the trust that you have with your child, and
I love
rebuild
that,
that.
Vanilla. Repair and connect is what you're talking about. I absolutely love that. I also like how you said that, our children are so forgiving, right? I mean, we reach out to them, we want to apologize, and they'll forgive us. So I've told him that the minute you find me raising my voice either at you or at the kids, just show this sign. And I'll understand that that's my cue to pause. That's my cue to stop at that time. And that's what we do. And it's surprisingly effective because if at that time, suppose I'm yelling at him or if I'm yelling at my kids, if he starts to say, oh, I think you're shouting, or I think I'll get more angry. So this signal works really well because I'm like, it's no words, right? Just a signal, a simple plain signal of stop, right? And I immediately realize, okay, I really need to pause right now. And I literally stop mid sentence, and it works beautifully. I do that to him, he does that to me, and that also in front of our kids, it's showing, it's demonstrating how, it's good communication basically, and it's good emotion regulation, and it's responsible anger management. Another thing that of course I haven't tried in my family, but I got this tip from Laura Markham's book, right? How to Stop Yelling at Your Kids. She's written this amazing beautiful book, which is like kind of a bible for me. Is she recommends how you can use sticker charts, for not for your child but for yourselves. You cut out these, make these beautiful either stickers or golden stars, and your child gives one golden star to you every day. The day you
Oh,
yell, you don't get a golden star. So it's beautiful, right? So I don't
oh,
personally like doing this for kids because I think it sends a totally wrong message to the kids. But I love that the kid gets to give a star to the parent for demonstrating responsible anger management. I love that. So I haven't tried it, haven't got to the stage. This is usually working in my house right now, but I love this idea. So I think this is also something that parents out you there can try.
no, so, yeah, some wonderful tips, Megan. I like that. The non-verbal signals that you share with each other. That's fantastic. It's a reminder to you, right? Because you
Yeah.
can get totally lost in your emotions, and then somebody to point out, hey, time out, right? And yeah, that's great. And yeah, this will give children giving you stars for good behavior. Wow, that's
Genius,
empowers the
right?
child. They feel like they are in control of you, right? That's fantastic. And then, so when you do that to them, then it becomes, they understand why you're doing something. So some good ideas here, maybe. Yeah.
So
So
thanks, parents. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks so much, Narina, for taking out time to speak to our parents. And please keep sending us your queries, your questions, your challenges, and even your triumphs. We're all here to share, and we have this community in which we can learn from each other. So thanks so much for tuning in today. See you next time. Bye.